Deuteronomy 1 to 3. I like to think of Deuteronomy as the end of a long journey that started long ago, 40 years ago, far away down in Egypt, and even with a different group of people. That generation had now died out during the Israelite wandering. Well, the name Deuteronomy does mean second law, and its form is really an extended sermon by Moses. He is going to be rehearsing with the people, like in Deuteronomy 1 to 3, we read much of their history, how they got where they are, and really what they need to be thinking about as they move into Canaan. Even though the word does mean second law, it is surprising how different Deuteronomy is compared to what came before it. Even statistically, let me show you some thoughts here that surprised even me as I tallied the numbers. The name or the word sacrifice occurs 35 times in Leviticus, 20 times in Numbers, and only 5 times in Deuteronomy. The word holy, or actually the Hebrew word kodesh, occurs quite often in these two books. It only occurs 4 times in Deuteronomy. Atone, or the Hebrew word kafar, again quite common, now only occurs 2 times. The word offering, very common, does not occur at all. So what have we learned so far? The ritualistic system that Israel had institutionalized as they entered God's home, sacred space, the tabernacle, that conversation is pretty much done. We're not talking about that part of Israel's religion now. Well, what does the book concentrate on? Interestingly, the very common Hebrew word for love, it is the most common word for love, ahav in Hebrew, hardly occurs in these two books at all. It will occur with pretty much regularity in Deuteronomy. The word gods, of course, the word Elohim, but translated as a plural noun, gods, G-O-D-S, hardly occurred in these two previous books, but now will be a common theme, what God thinks of those gods and how Israel is to fear them or to not associate with them. And I use this illustration here in 2 Kings 22, the king Josiah. He will be a later king, a good king, and he will find the book of the law in the temple. We don't know what portion of the book of the law he found, but as he had it read to him, he tore his clothes and repented and said, "Our God is angry with us for what we have done, for what we have not followed in the law." It's interesting that that specific word for anger is never used in either of these two books, but here, again, in Deuteronomy, it is 5 times. So what does that again tell us about this book? It is the second giving of the law, but it's a very different intent behind Moses' explanation of what God really wants. Don't think about ritual. Don't concentrate on the mechanics of our religion. Folks, we need to concentrate more on the heart, the intent of what God is really after. It is interesting in 2 Kings 17, when Israel goes into exile, and there's a long laundry list of reasons that God sent them into exile, it will be because of this material down here. He will not mention any abrogation of the ritualistic system. And one last point, as the third most commonly quoted book in the New Testament, Deuteronomy, just behind the Psalms and Isaiah, it shows, I think, that if we understand Deuteronomy, we'll understand the intent for the entire reading of our New Testament. So enjoy reading Deuteronomy as we go forward.